Hello and good morning. Am I audible? Hello and good morning. May I start this small submission by first conveying my respects to my colleagues and dignitaries in the US and wishing all the very best to our audience here. We have this subject for the next 2 days, which we have called Collaborating for Decarbonization. Am I correct? Now, the big question around this is, are we going to beat around the bush as usual in these 2 days, or shall we cut to the chase? I am saying this, maybe it sounds like a bit of a mystery, but I am saying this because the real issue in decarbonizing the cement industry is that famous chemical equation, calcium carbonate is equal to calcium oxide plus CO2. And most of us here are aware of this. And this is 60% of the CO2 emitted in making cement, right? And this is the bush that we are beating around. We are beating around this bush. Fuel used in the kiln makes for another 30%, and all the others make for another 10%. Broadly speaking, may not be accurate, but let's keep in mind 60, 30 and 10. Now we have talked over the years a lot about this 10%. And also sometimes about this 30%. And the funny thing is, reducing this 10 and 30, now I am using this name, 60, 30, 10, and you will immediately recognize what I am talking about. The funny thing is that reducing this 10 and 30 has always had a stronger financial, that is cost incentive. And the industry was self-driven to bring down costs, and therefore they embraced all the innovation, all the new things that could be done to try to bring down this 10 and 30. Now what makes the 60% more difficult and complex to mitigate is not just the technology challenge. Technology challenge is immense. But it is not just the technology challenge, but that there is no obvious financial justification. So yes, it is difficult, yes, it is complex, but to cut to the chase, we still need to talk about it. And more importantly, collaborate to find a solution. So what is our current understanding of this elephant in the room? The 60%. I am calling this elephant in the room because that's the English proverb that is used to denote something that is there, but people refuse to talk about it. So what are the options in front of us for the 60? We all know often repeated terms such as carbon capture and sequestration, also carbon capture and utilization, and also synthetic cements or cement substitutes, non-clinker cement, different names. To set a bit of a context, if all the CO2 from global cement industry were to be captured, theoretically speaking, imagine, were to be captured and sequestered in its supercritical state, we shall need a volume space the size of Delhi every year. Every year, one Delhi, to store that CO2 in supercritical state. If all the CO2 of the global cement industry were to be utilized as industrial input, as industrial chemical, as industrial chemical ingredient for producing something that consumes CO2, like fertilizer, etc. It will mean 10 times the total consumption of industrial CO2 annually. So what industrial CO2 is consumed by the CO2 consuming industries, cement industry CO2 is 10 times that. So that industry has to grow 10 times to be able to take cement industry CO2. And of course, there is the challenge of relocating all these plants nearer to the cement industry. That's another matter. We are talking theory. And what is the growth rate of these industries? These CO2 consuming industries like fertilizer, etc. The growth rate is of the order of 2% globally, annually. And what is the growth rate of cement industry globally? There are conflicting numbers, but anything between 3 to 5%. Stagnant in the matured markets and growing fast in the emerging markets. So on balance, it is 3 to 5%. So the industry that is growing at 3 to 5%, potentially generating that much more CO2 every year, is looking at trying to incentivize consumption of the CO2 in CO2 consuming industry, which is 1/10 of that size, growing only at 2%. These are some of the dimensions and all a part of the context. And this is to say nothing about the tens of billions of dollars of investment that will be required to achieve any of these. So obviously it's complex, it is difficult, and we thrive, we humankind, we the technologists, we thrive in challenges. But all in all, my take is that, having said all this, my take is that the most viable, optimistic and possible solution is non-clinker cement substitute, which my co-speaker talked about this time. With this background, let us talk about who must collaborate in this. Who are the stakeholders who must collaborate in this? The industry, of course, the policy makers who will incentivize things or disincentivize things and provide motivation. Technology providers who will be the enablers, financial institutions who will be able to extend grants, finances, etc. at reasonable interest rates for such investments. And last but not the least, universities and research organizations. Now this conference is a very noble step in the right direction in trying to promote such dialogues among cement stakeholders, and I am proud that the organizers are doing this. In the end, I urge you to trim the bush, cut the bush, and not beat around it. I urge you to trim the bush and cut that 60% bush. In these 2 days, through many sessions, please see the elephant in the room. Please feel the elephant in the room, and please talk about the elephant in the room. Much like a proverbial broken record, I come to these events and keep repeating my views, and Pratap may know this, but that is all I can do, and he will do the rest. Thank you.